Revolutionary greetings, comrades. The Al Jazeera documentary on the called Mafia has brought to the fore, once again, the discussion on the role of the church in communities, in particular in Zimbabwe and the rest of Southern Africa. Zimbabwe and South Africa in the main are said to be Christian countries. There are so many churches. You have the old church, which was established during colonialism. It has its own weaknesses. We'll talk about it some other time. The old church was more about speaking to the inner man. If you understand from a Christian perspective what an inner man is, it has been speaking more about the afterlife. Every Saturday, every Sunday, or in every church service, the old church will always remind the congregants that there are two ways: a narrow one that leads to heaven, and a wide one that leads to death or hell. So the old church has been preoccupied in the main with the afterlife, to say, when Jesus comes, will you be able to meet him? We are getting to the Easter weekend where Jesus Christ was crucified, and the old church will be speaking about the importance of the blood of Christ to the congregants. The old church, it emerged alongside colonialism and capitalism in our continent. Because capitalism understood that you need to educate a worker to be able to carry out instructions at work, to be able to operate machinery. So the capitalism invested in education for the purposes of educating workers or future workers, so that when they go to work in the mines, in the farms, in the factories, they will be able to carry out instructions, they will be able to operate machinery for the benefit of the capitalist economy. It is then, therefore, the old church that, along in a capitalist economy, so to speak, also understood the importance of education. That it has to build schools. Many missionary schools were built by the churches, be it Brethren in Christ Church, SDA, Lutheran, Methodist, Anglican, and many others. They built schools. The capitalist system understood that when a worker gets injured, a worker must be treated so that they return back to the line of production. The old church also understood this, because, as I've said, it emerged in our continent alongside colonialism and capitalism. The old church invested in the healthcare sector. They built clinics, they built hospitals. I grew up in the Brethren Christ Church. It built Mchabeze Hospital in Matibele in South. But we have seen the emergence of the new church. The emergence of the new church, which does not speaks more about the afterlife as the old church does. The new church is about prosperity. It argues its congregants that you do not need to wait for the afterlife to live a good life. You must start living a good life here. It has been said to be a gospel of prosperity. Many things then happen for one to make it in life. Rituals are done. We've seen some feeding grass to their congregants, diesel, and other funny things. And the congregants are told to plant the seed every year, to plant the seed of prosperity. That if you do not plant the seed, you will not harvest. It's not about harvesting, as the old church will say, in the next life. It is harvesting in this life. And the harvest is wealth. The old church leadership, the pastors, they live a decent lifestyle. Many of them are struggling to send their kids to school. They are assisted by the church to send their kids to school. They live in church premises, some of them. The church will require them to leave their jobs and be full-time in the church. And most of them and their families are not well up. That is the leadership of the old church. They live a life that is lived by many of the congregants that they lead. They are not wealthy, and they will not show off wealth because they do not have wealth, most of them. Unless, of course, a few that will be running businesses while they are church leaders, then they might have some few investments here and there. But in the main, their livelihood depends on the church through church offerings and tithes. Whereas the new church leadership lives a flamboyant lifestyle. They will show off their suits, expensive shoes, expensive vehicles, expensive homes. The new church emerged, unlike the old church, which emerged alongside capitalism and colonialism. The new church emerged alongside the looting class, particularly in Zimbabwe. And we have dealt with this question of the looting class. That the looting class is not capitalist in nature. And I want to explain this. As I have said, that a true capitalist understands the investment, the importance of investing their capital, the importance of investing in the workforce for them to continue getting maximum profits. Whereas the parasitic bourgeoisie, which is the looting class, it is about looting. First, it loots state entities. It runs them to the ground, state entities. It loots minerals and other resources. It does not invest the capital and diversify the economy. It does not invest education or healthcare to the workers. No. It loots, keeps the money out of the country. It does not invest. When the looting class is in power, unemployment is high because there is no investment into industries. Its key objective is to loot with their political friends and the families. They will be buying all over holiday homes. They will be traveling in private jets. They will be showing off their wealth. So the new church emerges under the looting class, alongside the looting class. You have the political class, which is the looting class, that shows off its wealth. We have seen, for instance, in Harare, the number of luxury vehicles that are delivered at the Robert Mugabe International Airport for politicians. They compete with the leadership of the new church. Maybe to compete might not be the right word, but they lead the same lifestyle. This is why the looting class and the new church leadership easily forms an alliance to loot, as exposed by Al Jazeera. So it is not a surprise that the leadership of the new church, who go by the name Papa or Men of God or prophets, our new prophets, not the prophets of the old church, but the new prophets of the new church. It's easy for them to form an alliance. And the alliance is based on looting. Because everyone wants to live a good life. With their flamboyant lifestyle, young people flock into these churches with the hope of becoming wealthy like their church leaders. Because the church, by its very nature, attracts the majority in our society. So this alliance between the looting class, the political looting class, and the church leadership looting class has two objectives. One is to ensure that the looting class remains in power. Hence, one of the prophets, or said prophets, was saying to his congregants that people should not wear t-shirts of the opposition. They should not worry about opposition, but they should support the ruling party. So they want to keep the ruling party, which is led by the looting class, in power. It's important for them to do so that the political and the church leadership will achieve the second objective, or their second objective will not be interrupted, which might actually be the first objective of looting, as we have seen in Al Jazeera episodes. So the question therefore that we're confronted with as communists, as revolutionaries, what then becomes our attitude to the church in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, elsewhere, in Eswatini, elsewhere, that has emerged alongside the looting class. What then becomes our attitude? At the Special Congress of the South African Communist Party, a comrade said correctly that the mass of the people are found in church, and the communists must be found in church, because the church attracts the majority of the people, and the communists must not stay away from where the people are. So the question therefore is, what then becomes our attitude to this new church that has emerged alongside the looting class, and its leadership, clearly its leadership, its main mission is to loot, and they have political protection. But the mass of the people who are in the church, the congregants, who are going to Easter weekend, the mass of the people, they will fill up stadiums, they will fill up walls and so on. They remain poor, they are the working class. And ours is to advance, deepen, and defend the struggle of the working class. How then do we reach out to the congregants who are promised prosperity, and that prosperity does not arrive? In the next video, I'll talk about some workers who go to church, who will sell their houses and they give the money to the church, and they will remain poor. I know, as I'm concluding, when I wrote some years back on Facebook about this new church, the leadership, one of my friends says, Comrade Mabena, do not touch the anointed. So hence I'm saying, I started by saying, the Al Jazeera documentary has once again brought to the fore this discussion. I want to hear your views. Let's have a conversation. I am Ngabuto Nicholas Mabena. Please like this video, circulate, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Otherwise, I'm Comrades.